Coming up the stairs with was a man with a gun. He asked me for money, and I told him to get out of the house, and he hit me in my eye with a gun. My glasses broke. And then he said, get upstairs, and I went upstairs and covered my eye up. There was a lot of blood.
I can't let my kids go out at night on the streets. It scares me to death. It scared me to death even before this sort of thing happened. I wouldn't let my daughter walk her friend 3 blocks across Rose Street over here because I'm scared, because there are nuts running around.
Within a period of 9 days in January, we were hit 3 times. It struck us as a kind of bolt out of the blue, and we find with many of our other neighbors, too, they don't realize how bad this problem is until they themselves are hit and find out how many others in the area are hit, too. We were not aware that the problem was this serious until it happened to us like that.
Serious crime is a problem in all communities, cities, suburbs, rural areas. Most of us no longer feel safe in our neighborhoods. And even though crime heads the list of public concerns according to most national polls, it continues to flourish.
Or about 4 times as much.
Do you want to point out the items in here that belong to you?
Well, everything that's in this corner, and a lot of it looks like our stuff, but it's similar material.
Can you estimate how many additional items you're still missing that we haven't?
Most of us contribute to the circumstances that allow crime to grow. People will not do anything about it until they themselves become victims.
Burglary. People always think it's going to happen to someone else. It happens to the neighbor, it happens to somebody around the corner, but it's never going to happen to them. Consequently, they don't worry about having good locks in their place. They don't have any record of their property. And they're just very lackadaisical, and they figure it's not going to happen to them.
We've installed more locks, and we're in the midst of trying to figure out how to improve the security and put in a burglar alarm system. And we haven't gotten to all of that yet because it's been less than 2 weeks, but we're considering all of that.
Unless they take some type of precautions to protect their house, they're not going to keep the average thief out.
I spent approximately 17 years of my life behind bars, give or take a year either direction. Mainly for petty thefts, ranging from burglary to picking pockets to shoplifting to shortchanging.
We used to hit the cars parked in the hospitals. A lot of doctors parked their cars in the parking lots, and we'd take their bags and get the dope out of the doctor's bags.
Personally, I never like to go in anybody's home for fear of being apprehended, because I'm a coward at heart. Don't want to get hurt, and definitely didn't want to hurt anybody.
Burglary, for the most part, is a crime of opportunity, especially in the suburb communities. How it occurs is usually a group of youngsters, 3 or 4, and maybe even 2, together, and they look for property or homes that are carelessly locked or guarded, and they are the ones most likely to be burgled. It's not as we imagined the burglar to be, some giant brain or Raffles, right? Coming into your Riviera home. No, that's not the kinds of burglary most people are concerned about. The kinds is the one that are infecting all our communities. The kinds where the juveniles, primarily, are going into homes and businesses that are improperly guarded and improperly locked.
Yeah, you take some fellow who's worked very hard all his life and buys a brand new home, spends $50,000, $75,000. Then he goes to the hardware store and he buys a $2 lock to protect the whole apartment, the whole home. And it seems that that's kind of crazy to do that. And you should, you know, spend a certain amount of money within reason, but to do that, you should seek out the information first and find out what's available, what the best locks are, and how to really protect your home.
Well, a deadbolt lock is any lock that has to be locked as you leave or as you enter, with a key or with a thumb turn. And a latch type is one where you just close the door and it automatically locks behind. And any deadbolt is better than the best latch, but it's also a little bit inconvenient. And you have to lock it. And of course, if you don't lock it, it doesn't make any difference how good a lock you have.
It was reasonably early in the evening. We have children and friends going in and out of the house all day long. It seemed unreasonable to have to lock the door every time you went down to our garage workshop, every time a child came in to borrow something. I had just come in from a dance class. It was 9:15, a couple of hours before bedtime. Never thought to lock the door.
We were all, she and I were sitting in the bedroom and talking, and our son came up the stairs and walked into the room, and there was a guy behind him. He kept pointing the gun at me, and he told me to get out of the bed, lie down face down on the floor, told my son to take his clothes off, throw them out in the hallway, told my wife to take her clothes off, and told her to go out and get the money. She went to her purse and got the money out of the purse. Went to my wallet and got the money out of my wallet, and then raped her in the hallway in front of my son and myself.
I thought we were pretty cautious people. But obviously, given the way the world is today, we were not.
More and more. Every day you got news and news that people steal. People are very afraid. So this is the reason they use this kind of gate.
Burglary around here is so common that even those who have not been hit are beginning to be seized by a kind of sense of panic.
Ever since I got ripped off, take any more chances.
Your best solution is a little dog like this. He protects you, you know, protects your home. Nobody comes in without him knowing it.
Come here. Sit down. I have two dogs, with one small, not enough to do anything, but the other one's bigger, and plus I have guns, and I'm gonna protect myself whatever way, you know, it takes.
I got a dog, I got 4 guns, I hate guns. I got 4 guns in the house. You gotta keep everything under control.
At the time, what I wanted to do was kill this guy. There was nothing I would have liked better, and that's still true. There's nothing I'd like better than just to blow him away.
Most citizens are not equipped to deal with a burglar. They're likely to get hurt if they do. And especially at night, if a burglar were to enter your home at night, probably has the mind of a Neanderthal and is potentially a dangerous person. What not to do is pick up a gun if you have one, because you're likely to shoot your own toe off, and if you're not, if you don't do that, you might hurt someone in your own family.
So, you know, why put yourself in harm's way? Best thing to do is try to get a definite description and tell the person if he's in your house to take anything he wants, please don't bother me. And while they're ransacking, get all the descriptions you can. See if there's any scars on them, or tattoos, anything of that nature. And as soon as they're gone, call the neighbor or call the police if you have a phone.
If they call the police right away, say just exactly that there's some suspicious men in the neighborhood or somebody just went into a window or broke in a door, that's the easiest way for us to apprehend these burglars and other thieves, by catching them in the act. But our problem is that we don't have that many people calling up, and we don't get that many calls like that.
They've even watched people load up their cars with stereo equipment and TVs and just without calling the police and say, well, I thought that was strange when you're talking to them later. Oh, I thought that was something wrong there. But they never think it's wrong enough to call the police at the time.
The police department is not into preventive medicine at all, okay? If something happens in your house, you call them up, they're out here right away, they write some reports, they file the reports. If they catch the guy, they'll do something to him, maybe.
The police came over and made an investigation, but Jesus, they stayed 5 minutes, they walked around, turned around a couple of times, said, how do you do, and, you know, what's your name, and wrote down a couple of lines on a notebook about the size 3x3 card, and out the door he went, you know.
Most of the times you know who done it, because they live in the same neighborhood as you. So you get a hold of them, you slap them around a little bit and make sure you don't happen again, so then you're in trouble. But if you call the cops on them, they'll say, what evidence you got? One guy was looking for me with a shotgun one time, and I told the cops about it, and they says, well, did he shoot at you? I says, no, because if he did, I probably wouldn't be talking to you. So he goes, well, we can't do nothing. I says, okay, I'll take care of it myself, which I did, you know, and that's what they force you to do. They force you to be a vigilante.
That's the only way you're going to get any justice around here.
The police and the public seem to be in an adversary situation. I don't know how it came to be, but we always seem to be fighting each other where it's not necessary. Actually, if the public and the police could combine, we could really make some inroads against crime.
The police need somebody to blame because they don't get the help they're getting, so they blame the public. The public, for whatever inadequacies, have to have somebody to blame for their losing property, so they blame the first available person, happens to be the policeman.
the public has a feeling that the responsibility for the solving of crimes, for the handling of all crimes, lies with the court, with the police departments, with the systems that put people in jail. And yet, primarily, the first step is the coming forward by the witness, the citizen, in order to proclaim that he wants to have something done, to make a complaint, and to be a witness. And he fails to do this so that the rest of the system doesn't act up to the point that it should.
A lot of people don't bother to call police. In fact, over half of 20 million serious crimes committed each year go unreported.
Windows and doors have just been stripped out.
That's right.
And these are all sort of our nouveau things. Mine are Flemish, and I haven't made a report yet, and I will, and they're very easily identifiable because each one has a medallion with a subject in it. I hadn't made a report because I'd placed an ad offering a reward in the paper, hoping that they'd gone to some private house.
How did you find out about that?
A friend called up. He saw a television program last night, and he thought he recognized one of my windows on the program.
Not knowing that you had been burglarized or robbed, then we wouldn't know that the crime had been committed, and
that's right.
The man would just keep committing crimes
Oh,
without our
don't
knowledge.
worry. I was waiting those 2 weeks exactly to see if anything came in, and then I was going to come to you and make a full report, and of course give you my idea of who might have done it.
This same suspect might be hitting half a dozen places in that area, and if we don't see a pattern, it makes our job 10 times harder. You can't very well apprehend someone for a crime that's never been reported, because then there hasn't been a crime as far as the police is concerned.
We're only as good as the citizens let us be. You know, we need the cooperation. We can't pick up our crystal balls and solve crimes. You know, we need people that see things, to give us information about it, and to aid us. If they don't help us, we can't do our job.
When the citizens fail to cooperate with us, when we ask them to do something and they won't, when we beg them, when we order them, when there is no response, this, of course, makes the officers cynical. They feel that what's the use of doing a tough job if there's not going to be any response by the citizens, if there's going to be no acknowledgement of the job that we're doing by only coming forward and being a witness.
Most people don't want to get involved. They stay away from each other.
People are so far apart as far as knowing anybody that nobody watches anybody's house, nobody talks to anybody, nobody knows who their friends are across the street, you know, who Joe Smith's friends are, so people come and go as they want.
I don't believe that the problem stems from apathy. I think it's more from fear. People are fearful for their safety, and as a result, they don't establish new relationships, new friendships. They don't want to meet people. They're fearful of them.
I'm very fearful right now because I know there's prowlers, you know, going up and down the street.
Your kids are gone to the store too long, you start to wonder what happens to them, you know. You got to go look for them, make sure everything is all right.
It makes you feel that you just can't trust anybody. You have to watch your movements. You can't be as flamboyant, you know, if you have things of value. And it even makes you feel a little bit reluctant to invite people home and, you know, to show what you have and enjoy it with friends. But you can't live in a prison, you know. You can't make your home into a fortress.
But that's exactly what most have done. Spent millions on locks, gates, guns, and alarm systems. And with people barricaded behind closed doors, the criminals have taken possession of our neighborhoods.
We can't let the bum element in the communities govern the communities in any way. If we got these bums that are intimidating citizens, we ought to get some action, get them thrown the hell out of there.
You can't have a group of people who get so irate that they want to get rifles and handguns.
I guess it's in the interest of the decent element in that community, Mo, to align themselves together and do something about their problem, because the police cannot help if they are unwilling to help themselves. It just boils down to that.
The whole problem of this kind of thing happening rests squarely on the shoulders of the people in the community, the people in the neighborhood, the people on your block, your next door neighbors, in your own house, and so on. I don't think that there's any way to push off responsibility for taking care of this kind of thing on the police department or on the city government. or the city council or anyone.
We've forgotten what neighbors are. We've forgotten what families are in some sense. We've forgotten that it's really okay for people to help each other out.
Like it used to be 20 years ago, everybody knew each other, and we'd wave at each other, and we'd walk down. Everybody, did with no fear at all.
If you're going to protect your communities from burglaries, you're going to have to take some sorts of steps. And those steps are concern for one another, not fear of going to the police and telling them, because if your community is described as a community that's aware of the burglary problem and are actively doing something about it, that information is going to seep out to the types of individuals you'll want it to seep out to. And they're going to get the message. They got a citizens awareness group. When they spot a person in the neighborhood that is acting suspiciously, they immediately bring it to the police's attention.
When we formed our committee, we found that people felt that this was a police project. It was a police job. So what we're actually trying to do is change attitudes from one of, oh, the system is too complicated, or it's somebody else's problem, or that's not my job, into a positive way of thinking that I can make some changes here. This is my community, and I'm concerned about the problems.
As a police officer, the meeting is all important. There's no way that police can do the job without the help of the community. We failed at this point, or up to this point, in stopping crime, and we need the community to get involved, to actually call us, to help us make the arrest, to find out what's going on at all, in any way, shape, or form.
And of course, it takes a long time until you build up the momentum with the people in your neighborhood, the ones who are around you, and then once it gets going, you put yourself on the offensive, as opposed to being on the defensive, where you carry the ball.
One day I'd say to myself, wow, this corner is like this block is like this. I'm going to move. But why am I going to move? Now I feel like, well, I feel victory, because I feel like we've all got together and we are doing something, and something is changing.
We're getting more acquainted with our neighbor. We begin to know our neighbors better again.
And I think this is really the key that makes everything work. You get a sense of everybody, watching after your house if you're gone, and you watch after their house if they're gone, and it's worked very well in this neighborhood.
You can spend a fortune on alarms, on bars on your windows, but unless your neighbors are willing to cooperate and look after each other, it's not going to make a bit of difference, because any thief can beat any alarm system or any lock if he has enough time.
In 6.5 years since we first implemented this program, the first 2.5 years, the crime rate dropped 48%. And that was with a lot of hard work. It's not an easy approach, but any community can do the same thing.
We didn't know very many people in the neighborhood at all. Now we're finding we're uncovering a lot of buried treasure, so to speak.